All right, very good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Mr. Andrew Parsons, President of the International Paralympic Committee. This is your welcome, first of all.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, man. How has it been so far?
Well, I've only been here for a couple of hours, but I can already feel the warm hospitality from Jamaican people. So far, so good.
Talk to me about the idea of you coming here to Jamaica. I'm certain that your focus is primarily on the Paralympic policies and movements, and generally talk to us about your visit overall here to Jamaica.
Well, this is something that we do at the International Paralympic Committee because we believe that we exist as an organization to serve our membership and our athletes. So it's important that we understand the challenges and the opportunities of our members, meaning the Jamaica Paralympic Association, for example, here. So it's important for me to come visit, and of course I know my visit can open doors, can open some opportunities for the Paralympic sport in Jamaica, but it's also an opportunity for us to understand better the environment that you have here, the stakeholders that are involved, what the challenges ahead of the Paralympic movement, where the athletes are, coaches, so then we can design or we can use our programs to better support the Paralympic movement here in the country.
In terms of the challenges that countries like Jamaica face, what are some of them from your perspective, and how moving forward can assist in terms of addressing these challenges?
Yeah, most of the countries, they have challenges in accessing funding, for example, funding for parasport, for grassroots programs, to elite. So this, of course, funding and support from a financial point of view is an issue, and there are multiple ways to address them. It depends on the reality of the country, of course. We can ask the government for more funding, we can speak with the private sector, we can open opportunities with, for example, development banks, international development banks. We can, of course, support with some funding, with some projects here in Jamaica. So that's the idea of coming here. Of course, you have also the issue of integration into society, so how persons with disability are perceived and seen in the different societies around the world. This is also something that is important for me to understand how this works here in Jamaica. And then, of course, how is the access of physical education by persons with disability here, if the children with disability are included in physical education classes, if there's something we can do in the field of education. So there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot of things that we can connect the dots here in Jamaica or internationally. So that's the main thing the main objective of my visit, is to understand and learn. And of course, open some doors for the Jamaica Paralympic Association.
How does the Jamaican experience compare with others associations such as us?
Well, this is to be seen. No, this is exactly what I'm coming here to find out. Of course, from outside and from the relationship that we have with the Jamaica Paralympic Association, we can see that, for example, in the Caribbean area, it's something that it's common. It's the lack of funding for Paralympic sport, and sometimes even for able-bodied sport in some of the nations here in the Caribbean. So this is another thing that we want to do, is see how, because we believe that Jamaica can be a leader. It's already, but we can see how we can then strengthen this position of leadership of the Paralympic Association of Jamaica in the Caribbean area. There is a Caribbean Paralympic Association being formed. We believe that Jamaica can be, one of the leaders of this movement here. So there's a lot of things in common between the different nations here in Caribbean, and if we can do things that will benefit the whole sub-region, the better, so we can maximize the impact in this part of the world.
And how would that Caribbean Paralympic Association that is being, branded about, thought about, and to come into being, how will that be a part of the whole global scheme where the IPC is concerned?
Well, I think it's by bringing the members together and understanding how we can then together maximize the opportunities here. So if we want to develop a specific sport, how we can do one program from an IPC perspective that will benefit the region or the sub-region as a whole, how one can support each other. So for example, if we talk about classification, we can develop different classifiers for different sports in the different nations, so you don't need to do the same thing in every single country, and one can support the other. So basically it's to gain in scale It's to maximize the investment that we can make in the region by making the region work together. I think this is something that is not working as well as it could, the different nations of the Caribbean working together as one. So I think the Caribbean Paralympic Association can be a tool that will bring them together, and we can then of course maximize not only the initiatives and the efforts, but the results.
How would you dispel the notion that countries such as us how would you dispel the notion that countries such as us is really just a small cog in the whole IPC world, and at the end of the day, you're still seeing the larger able-bodied nations, those are the ones that are still, benefiting from the IPC. How would you dispel that notion?
No, I think this is wrong because of what for us, the membership and to serve the membership, it's fundamental. So to be honest, I spend more time going to the developing nations. I come from a developing nation. When I joined the Paralympic Committee of Brazil, parasport was not even recognized by the Brazilian law. And I know how difficult it is to operate in a country where parasport is not recognized by the law. And still today, so I'm talking about 27 years in the past, still today there are many countries where sport for persons with disability is not recognized in the sport law of the country. And of course this has an impact on accessing public funding, for example. So we are trying to push governments, we are trying to push civil society, the private sector in different ways across the world. That's why most of my time I spend going to developing nations, speaking with different levels of government, private sector, the educational system, the sports system, of course the Olympic sports system, because sometimes we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's by bringing the Paralympic movement closer to the Olympic movement and benefit from part of the infrastructure that already exists in the country. So we believe that the strength of the Paralympic movement, it's precisely on the understanding that in every country in the world, at least 15% of the population has a disability, and using sport as a catalyst, as a platform to change the position and the perception around persons with disability in the different societies.
Countries like us, Jamaica, we struggle with private sector support for sports generally, and the Paralympic, they're even way further down in that pecking order in terms of support. How would you, urge and implore the private sector to be a part of, this whole Paralympic movement?
Well, first of all, I think that it's a good business decision to include persons with disability in your strategy if you run a company in every sector. We're talking about 15% of population globally. I don't know, of course, the exact numbers in Jamaica, but it's around 15%. And what we want from using sport to it is that these 15% of the population is active in society. They become citizens with disability, so that they can find jobs, so they can be active into society. They can, raise families. And they are consumers. Persons with disability, they use their mobile. They drink different kinds of drinks. Some of them drive cars. They use credit cards. They buy goods, so clothing, and so they are consumers. So what we want them is that they get active into society, so they can have an income. They can pay taxes. The dream of the founder of the Paralympic movement more than 70 years ago, Sir Ludwig Guttmann, he used to say, "My dream is that every disabled person on this planet can become a taxpayer." We understand people, they don't like to pay taxes, but what he meant was being active into society. And this is what we want through sports. So from a business perspective, it makes sense to get this part of the population active and having an income and producing things and being active into society. So this is one point of view. And the government side, investing in parasport has benefits outside the world of sport. When you include a part of society, it has impact on the health system, social security, education. So this is what we want to tell the politicians and the different levels of government around the world, is that the more you invest in parasport, because parasport is probably the best mechanism to include persons with disability, because it changes the perception of the people. And not of the 15% with disability, of the 85% that doesn't have a disability, but they run companies, they are decision makers, because what we want is that person with disability be included in society, benefiting the society. And this is what we try to make levels of government and the private sector to invest in that, because at the end the return on investment will be very positive for them.
Have you had the chance to look at Jamaica's overall history in the Paralympic movement? Jamaica has a lot of medals, probably even more than the able-bodied Olympics. In recent times, there has been a dip, maybe for lack of interest in terms of persons with disabilities. Maybe they are not confident enough to come forward. How would you look at that? How is something like that is something that you are looking at? Yes.
Yeah, I know the Jamaican Paralympic movement for a long period of time. I remember with my first international event when I was still with the Brazilian team in 1998 in athletics. We met the Jamaican delegation, and we have. I even got to know Suzanne Harris, who today is the Secretary General of the National Paralympic Committee by then. So yeah, we understand that athletics is the number one sport by far here in the country, and also in the world of para sport. And we have seen that in the recent games there has been a decrease in the results and in participation. So there is a generational gap. So most probably, and this is what we try to understand, this has also to do with the development and the growth of Paralympic sport outside of Jamaica. So Paralympic sport is more and more competitive. So probably this, maybe Jamaica was not able to keep up with that growth outside because the lack of investment, the lack of support here in the country. So the human resources are here, the athletes are here. What we need to do is help Jamaica Paralympic Association to strengthen the pathways from grassroots to elite level, so we can make sure that we have more and better athletes for the future, so that they can compete in LA, Brisbane, so on and so forth, or in international events in between the Paralympic Games. And then, of course, these athletes will be role models for future kids with disability that they're more likely to engage in sport. So I think what we need to do here is give a little bit more of infrastructure and services to the athletes in the country, and this is why we're here, to understand how we can support the Paralympic Association here to achieve that.
Yes, you touched on, maybe the criteria for qualification to games has gotten a little, is different. For some people it might be harder. Is this something that, you touch on it, that maybe you need to look at infrastructure, how you can assist in terms of, to even get even more interest from these athletes, because, they say it is getting a little harder.
Yeah, well, there are multiple ways of doing that. So to keep the interest in parasport, the interest of persons with disability, probably you need two things to make things very simple. You need role models, so that you need the athletes, Jamaican athletes, who they can aspire to be in the future. And then, of course, you need to have the pathways. They need to understand that if they train hard and if they get the results, their performances will be rewarded in a way, so they will qualify to the Paralympics. So it's something that it's feasible, it's something that is achievable. Of course, it's not something that it's easy, but it's something that the pathway and the infrastructure is there. So it's up on them to go, and they need to understand that and see that is real. So this is what we need to work with the Jamaican Paralympic Association. But of course, one thing for IPC that is fundamental is universality. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of debate. We should go the way of only high performance, have the best athletes versus universality. And sometimes you need universality to precisely show to a country, in this case Jamaica, that look, you have a Jamaican athlete competing in Paris 2024, so it is possible to get to the Paralympics if you were born here in Jamaica and you have a disability and you have access to training, you have access to infrastructure. So this is what we need to do. But under my watch, as long as I'm the president of the APC, universality is a non-negotiable aspect of it. We want the developing countries, we want the small countries, we want the countries where even if the athlete cannot qualify according to the qualification criteria, but we understand that bringing 1, 2, 3 athletes from that nation will inspire a whole generation back in the country. And this is what we are doing here. And as I said, it's a non-negotiable future.
Yeah, that is understood. We have seen organizations like FIFA. They have established programs, and we have seen them even becoming strong partners with these countries in terms of what they events and stuff that they do. Is this something that the IPC is looking at, or you have started already?
Yeah, we look, of course, to the other international federation, international governing bodies, and to understand and see what works in different parts of the world. When we talk about Paralympic sport, we have the differences. Of course, we're talking about 22 sports in the summer, and we need to understand how we can help Jamaica. Of course, athletics and para-athletics is a big sport here, but there also have been initiatives in this country in developing coaching, for example, in the sport of boccia, which is a sport, Paralympic sport for athletes with a severe disability. So then how we can bring together the knowledge and the services to be able to make sure that we have athletes in those sports going to the Pan American Games, going to the World Championships, and then qualifying, or becoming eligible to attend the Paralympic Games in different sports. I think the more sports we can invest here, because I know Jamaica is an athletics country, but there are some other sports out there for athletes that have, for example, different type of disability, and it's important for them to also see the possibility of qualifying to the games. So yeah, partnering with the nations, we don't have all the financial resources in the world, so this is one of the things that we have to do, is activate the existing resources in the nations.
Yes, we have less than 5 minutes. The growth of the IPC, the Paralympic movement, how has it been since your presidency?
Well, one of the things that I'm really proud since I became president was to connect the Paralympic movement to the wider disability human rights movement. I think before my time we were a little bit dissociated from that. And I believe the Paralympic Games is the number one platform to advance the rights of persons with disability. It's the only global event that puts persons with disability center stage. In the world, you can take sport, art, economy, politics, whatever. The Paralympic Games is the big event. So to connect that with the disability rights is something absolutely fundamental. And I think especially after Paris, now we are positioned in that area. I think the world understands what we do. It's high performance sport. It has to be entertaining. It has to be high level. It has to have high quality. But there's a higher purpose behind it. And I think also the agreement and the relationship that we have with the IOC, with the International Olympic Committee, is stronger than ever before. So this, of course, benefits our athletes, benefits our members. Also in terms of broadcasting. So Paris was the first edition of the Paralympic Games that the whole world had the chance to watch it, because of we saw the rights from more than 160 different countries and territories. And also we had some partnership with YouTube, for example, to the countries that did not buy the broadcasting rights. So it was the first time ever that people around the whole world could really watch the Paralympics. And then we are spending and investing more money than ever before in the membership. So we have been directly injecting cash and financial resources into programs and projects with the members so that we can have more athletes and create the pathways I mentioned before in the different nations. I think the changing culture in the IPC to understand that we serve the membership, we serve the National Paralympic Committees and not the other way around, is something that I'm also really proud of. So I think we are growing. We have more fans than ever before, more athletes than ever before. We are reaching more countries than ever before. We have more female athletes than ever before, which is also important for us. So I think we are in the right direction. And I hope that we will still be growing in the coming years into LA and Brisbane 2032.
Yes, as I wrap up, the Jamaican experience, I'm not certain how much have you been informed about, what sort of help, what sort of assistance Jamaica, you might have it in your head already. Your visit here, is it to increase that knowledge in terms of where you can now go back and look and say, this is what Jamaica needs?
It's part of what I come to the country. I come to every country that I visit, and Jamaica, of course, is no exception, is to give and to bring back knowledge, understand exactly what Jamaica needs, what the Jamaican athletes needs, what the Jamaican Paralympic Association needs, and then how we can, from our headquarters in Bonn, Germany, work together with the Jamaican Paralympic Association and give a better structure and support to the athletes. But also, by coming here and speaking with the different government officials, private sector, and so on, is also to try to create or strengthen already existing connections between the Paralympic movement and those levels of power, if I may say. to make sure that some of the discussions that had taken place in some other nations, they are also discussed here. So, for example, creating laws or changing laws or creating programs or having more investment from the government into Paralympic sport. So it's a double fold. I come here to influence, I come here to create some connections, but also to learn a lot and go back and discuss with the team how we can better support Jamaica.
Yes, and in a minute, any additional things that you'd like to leave with us, our Jamaican audience?
Well, I think what I want to Jamaica audience is to give it a try to the Paralympic movement and understand we have incredible athletes here in this country, have a long history of winning medals in the Paralympic movement in international events. So the more you can support, get involved, get active, the better. As spectators, as fans, as volunteers, whatever. Just open the door, understand what the Paralympic movement is, a catalyst for change, is for make the world a more inclusive place. So get involved. That's my main message to the Jamaican population.
Pleasure speaking with you, sir, and welcome once again, and do have a wonderful time here in Jamaica.
Thank you.